Hello and welcome to 11FS Spotlight. I'm Mauricio Magaldi, Global Strategy Director for crypto here at the firm. And in this show, we shine a spotlight on the best and the brightest in tech and financial services to try and understand what gets them going, growing, and what they think the future of the industry will look like. On today's Spotlight, I'm delighted to be joined by Szymon from Ramp. And Szymon, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you. Great to be here. I'm a big fan and long-time listener, so it feels like a little bit of a milestone.
Awesome. It's super cool to have you. So today we're going to talk about Symon's career, take a deep dive into the current regulatory landscape, the challenges for widespread adoption of crypto. But before we dive in, I also want to say, slightly late, but still big congratulations. Late last year, Ramp Network had a really exciting Series B funding round. Can you start telling us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so last year was really great for Ramp. We grew by a lot and had appetite for more. So we raised 2 rounds, Series A and B, quite close to each other, more than $120 million altogether, with really great investors, Boulderton here locally, Mubadala, Corelia, and a bunch of others. So yeah, this sort of was a reflection of a great year that we had before that, and also our strategic plans for the future. So quite an exciting year, and now we'll just use all that money to keep rolling.
That is good. So let's give us a little bit of context on Ramp. So what is it that Ramp does so well that isn't enticing for further rounds of investment, for that level of growth? Can you tell us a little bit more about what you guys do?
So Ramp in a nutshell is an all-in-one Web3 access platform that is used by developers building Web3 and crypto-enabled applications to make it super easy and at the same time compliant to onboard their end users to their platform. So what we do in a nutshell is we deliver something of a payments gateway, but for crypto. So you can imagine it's like as if you would add PayPal to your e-commerce shop for people to be able to pay for something. In our case, people use Ramp's SDK to let people purchase crypto to then later be able to do something with that crypto purchased within the platform that integrated us. So we work with wallets, games, neobanks, Web3, other Web3 platforms, DeFi applications to let them onboard their users easily. That's
exciting. So what does I know it's hard to have a typical day when you're running a startup, especially in crypto. So what is a typical day for you, if there's anything like it on your life?
There's nothing like a typical day because there are different sort of phases of your company's growth, and also within these phases sort of different tasks. So when I'm fundraising, my day looks entirely different than when I'm hiring, and when we are pushing sales and marketing, this also looks very different. But I can tell you about my typical day sort of recently. So. I start typically around 7:30. I go through email and stuff. I start my meetings at 9 sharp. I go through a briefing for the given day. Then I meet my management team, and I have numerous syncs with all of my C-level executives throughout the week. Typically on Mondays, for example, I would meet all of them. We would go through most important things for the day. Afternoons are time for me to reflect. So then I write, set goals, reflect on our progress. And then in the evenings, that's typically sort of reporting. So reporting to stakeholders, investors, to writing letters to the entire company. And all of that is sort of typically focused on whatever is most important in any given week, right? So you have a week where your primary concern is raising levels of fraud, and another week when your main concern is scaling your sales team. So I would say that no day is alike in my life, but all of them follow a quite similar structure.
Love it. So, and in that context, I think it's interesting if we can explore a little bit more about strategic priorities, right? You guys raised this recent funding round. You have a working product. What is it that is moving? What is moving forward? What does it mean to Ramp at this stage and in the next, say, 18 to 24 months?
So I think we are fairly atypical because even though we found a strong market fit and we already have a big go-to-market and a great customer base of partners we work with, we still think that we are 30% done in terms of product development. So developing our product and delivering new capabilities to help our partners grow faster and our end users have more enjoyable interactions with Web3 is still top of our mind. So we are a little bit atypical because many other companies would rather focus just purely on scaling and on competing for more market share and developing their markets. Whereas, of course, we do all that, but there's still a lot of new stuff that we are developing. That's actually quite exciting. I probably would not be as happy running a company that is just scaling and not developing something new. And by the way, we are still hiring. Many other companies are firing, but Ramp is still growing, and we are looking for product managers, engineers, marketers, loads of people. So if you are excited about actually building, come and join us.
Lovely. And in terms of, you mentioned something that is obviously of concern about our place in the market. You mentioned about your competition. So let's look into Ramp a little bit more on the features, functionality aspect. So what is it that differentiates Ramp's set of features and value prop from all of the other, and I want to call it on-ramp services that are out there that are doing something that would sound similar to to the naked eye?
Yeah.
What is the difference from Ramp in that?
Before we get to the sort of narrow meaning of our competition, I think we should zoom out because still the main on-ramping sort of procedure or process used by most users is to go to a third-party service, such as a centralized exchange or a brokerage, purchase there, get that money, send it to their wallet, get their wallet and go to a Web3-enabled application, top it up, and only then use it. And so this is our biggest competitor, this flow. And we think it doesn't make sense, right? So it is as if you would go to your brokerage account and use Forex functionality of it to buy some euro to use when you go to France on vacation, right? So it doesn't make sense at all. What we are doing is similar to a Revolut card where you just spend as you like. And you do that exactly where, you do the exchange exactly where you want to use the currency you want to use. So this is it broadly. And then narrowly, first of all, it's interesting, there are not too many competitors doing this. I think that it's a function of the speculation use case being more lucrative, so people still are focusing mostly on building centralized exchanges for traders. But we are big believers in Web3 and that it is going to be increasingly used more and more. And so we are heavily invested in this particular on-ramping use case for retail, actually useful use cases, right? And so what we do better, clearly, is we have access to best payments infrastructure. And that's because we are very, very serious about our relationships with regulators and banks. We know that actually our job, if you really abstract all the complexity away, is to bridge trust between different participants of the market. So, end users, partners, crypto issuers, banks, governments, other payment services providers. And streamline all of these interactions through technology. So elevate trust, streamline, and use technology to do all that. It's our mission. And we treat that very seriously, and this is why we get access to best infrastructure. What this means, in fact, is that we can deliver the smoothest experience for end users. So we are the only company that offers real-time payments, RTP, in the US for very fast off-ramping, for selling your crypto so that you can get your crypto just in minutes. I think I can spill the beans and say that we'll be the first major on-ramp that would offer payouts to cards. So we'll be able to offer people the option to sell their crypto in 130 countries, and they would get their money straight to their Visa or MasterCard branded card, which I think is very exciting and also very useful in current climate where many people are looking to sell. But we would not be able to do that and sort of push this space forward and provide services that others cannot if we would not be very serious about engaging with regulators, engaging with banks, with PSPs, to make sure that they find us reliable and actually would open up new possibilities for us.
I like that. So just before we jump to the next section, I think it's interesting the way you're positioning Ramp. And one of the things you brought up is that you're seeing people use Ramp SDK to build stuff, right?
Yeah.
So what, from the stuff that is being built, what is the most curious you can share?
So the most curious, I think, are browsers. And we're very happy working with Opera Browser and Brave, which are at the forefront of making Web3 accessible at the browser level. So many of you are probably familiar with an approach where you would use a mainstream browser that is not crypto enabled, and then download an extension such as MetaMask to be able to interact with Web3. And I think that the floodgates would open only after mainstream browsers would actually natively implement Web3 capabilities into their apps, into their products, because that would actually open up a huge market for mainstream application developers. And we're very excited about this opportunity. And we think that we can play a big role because none of these developers really wants to run a business that would be as strictly regulated and connected to financial services as we are. And so we collaborate to make sure that they can actually make it happen. In one of our previous rounds, Mozilla Incorporated participated. So we are in close, we are in touch, right? There's nothing to announce just yet, but I think that just after the very first major browser would include Web3 sort of capacity together with an on-ramp, it is going to be a very big change for the entire industry. And apart from that, there are many very exciting use cases, right? But more sort of traditional and well-known. So after FTX unfolded, the importance of self-custody and using non-custodial wallets is as important as ever. And we partnered up with many wallets that are providing this functionality and let their users buy and sell crypto without using custodial services, which I think is very important.
Lovely. So I think that kind of is an interesting segue for us to kind of start diving a little bit deeper into the state of regulation, what the landscape looks like. So I'm the one that gets really excited about boring stuff. So infrastructure, regulation, we've been studying and discussing and writing about it for the last 6-12 months. So in your perspective, what is the current state of crypto regulation like everywhere, but obviously more important in where you're playing, Europe and the US, in the majority of the cases, but what does it look like right now?
That's a very broad question, but I can answer broadly as well. So I think that crypto is very well regulated, borderline over regulated in some areas, and I think that would be AML, CFT. Pretty much, I think the scrutiny is even more is higher, more intense than in some other financial services. There are some other areas that I think are already regulated, but the high quality enforcement is just not there yet. And I think one of these areas is consumer protection. And I think that many consumer protection rules do already apply to many activities on the crypto markets that I wouldn't like to see on the market, but just enforcement is not there. And there are areas where I would like to see some more development. It's especially around regulating custodial solutions. So the concept of just prudential regulations and requirements is not there yet, right? Where the same perverse incentives for custodians of other people's money exist on the crypto market. So I think that in a model where centralized entities hold hundreds of millions of dollars pooled from thousands of people, we should see the very same regulations that we see with banks and e-money institutions being applied, which is not the case yet. And I really hope that FTX saga would open up regulators' eyes, and so that they would regulate these players much more strictly.
At this stage, what does a progressive regulator look like at this stage? Because I know we keep saying we're early, but financial services have been around for centuries now, and there's a lot of similarity between crypto products and traditional financial products. We usually tend to think that same products, same rules, regardless of the technology where this is running. In that context, what would you call, what would be the characteristics of a progressive regulator?
I think a progressive regulator would invest in understanding all the nuance involved. I think the main point that is not very well understood by many regulators is how non-custodial and custodial services are different. And so when you are running a custodial service where you actually hold money pulled from multiple people and can, with a push of a button, move that money and, for example, lend it to your girlfriend so that she could gamble all of that away. You should actually see that all of the incentives, perverse incentives there, are the very same, or temptations are very same as in the financial markets, right? And like, if we do not want we do not want that to harm end users, customers, we should apply very similar requirements and regulations to protect them. However, if you are running a very different product, such as non-custodial wallet, then I think that the approach should be very different, because what the developer of such product can do is very different from what someone who runs a centralized exchange can do. And I can see a tendency of treating all crypto the same. And at first, this resulted in regulations that were too lax. And FTX is an effect of that. And today, I'm a little bit afraid that this lack of understanding of nuance and lack of granularity could mean that some regulations that do not make any sense for non-custodial solutions could be implemented and actually hinder a lot of growth. And I think that, and this is my personal opinion, I think that the most exciting innovation is going to emerge based on non-custodial principles. And so at the same time, I'm a little bit frustrated that building in a centralized custodial fashion is much easier, so we can push products to the market much quicker. But this causes, this really creates sort of risks that have this black swan profile. So you have gains, so you can be faster, you can push your products faster to end users. You can build these products in a way that is more understandable and easy to use for end users. And at the same time, you create this huge looming risk that sooner or later is going to materialize, right? And that could result in hundreds of thousands of people losing their money. And this is how I perceive, the crypto boom of centralized institutions. And here, I think that regulations should step in. But building in a non-custodial manner is much harder. Making non-custodial products easy to use is also much harder. And this is part of RAM's mission, to build infrastructure that allows developers to build in a non-custodial fashion. So build more resilient and also more fair products that do not need to be as strictly regulated, because many of the issues that regulations try to solve are solved by the code, by the technology. So, for example, for non-custodial wallets, the developer of given wallet cannot just, with a push of a button, transfer all of the money of all of users of that wallet somewhere else. I think that this is where the promise of crypto really lies, and I'm pushing as hard as I can to make sure that in the future it would be actually as easy or easier to use a non-custodial wallet than it is today to use a centralized exchange. So that when your friend asks, this Bitcoin thing, I'm late to the party, but like, where should I get it? How should I buy it? So that you can say, hey, buy it with Argent non-custodial wallet. It's super easy. It has slick UX, and by the way, you can top it up with Ramp, which is just a couple of clicks, rather than you saying, "Hey, you should probably use Coinbase." Right? So this is our mission, and I think this is only going to get accelerated because of FTX.
No, That's really good. So, in terms of like going forward, I mean, in this scenario that it seems that there's like stricter regulations looming for like centralized entities in crypto, and obviously the whole roadmap you guys have. So, what is like immediately next for you in Ramp? How are you moving towards like 2023, and how is that shaping up to be in terms of the year?
Our primary focus for this year is to improve payment rails. We already can provide our services pretty much globally because of our access to Visa and MasterCard networks. We already have instant bank-to-bank payments in Europe. We already have open banking and faster payments sort of base products in the UK. We have real-time payments in the US, but there is still so many more countries where cards are not the preferred way to pay. And at the same time, there are very efficient, very cheap, instant ways to transfer money bank to bank. And so for us, it makes a lot of sense to invest in getting access to all these countries and then give access to these rails to users of all sorts of products. It would make sense to pretty much know decentralized application to build this ecosystems of connections, registrations, licenses to let their end users to connect with their services. But we can pool the resources together and make it available to smaller developers or even very big developers. If you look at most exchanges, even like Coinbase, they also are pretty slow with adding all of these local payment rails. And so in the future, we may even work with exchanges in some cases to give them access to this infrastructure. So that's our primary focus. We are also optimizing a lot of the aspects of our service, of our UX. So we are improving the way we check KYC. We're improving our risk checks. We are speeding up the entire process. We make sure that not 70%, but 85% of people can access their crypto in under 3 minutes. And so this is very incremental. If you're asking about next big steps for us, we are definitely working very hard on making sure that storing crypto could become as easy and just flawless as buying crypto right now through Ramp. This is very complex because we do not want to build a custodial service. We also do not want to build our own wallet. We are not in a business of building end user facing applications. We want to help our partners to unlock full potential of their products and for them to develop faster. And so our thinking here is that we want to build something that is non-custodial and puts all the control in the hands of end users. At the same time, supports growth of our partners and could mean that onboarding to Web3 ultimately could become even easier than onboarding to some Web 2.0 financial services. And we just started this process. It's going to probably take quite some time, but we think this is the logical next step for us because we see that many of our partners have to develop these technologies themselves. And this is definitely far from the core of their business. So we think that, again, building that for everyone to use and bundling it together with our with other onboarding services that we offer makes a lot of sense. So, in a year from now, you could potentially build an application where the wallets, the KYC, the payments, buying crypto, swapping crypto could all be solved by our SDK. You wouldn't need to apply for any licenses that would relate strictly to these activities, and could just build on top of that.
That is amazing. So before we wrap up, I'll ask you a non-crypto related question. So you can answer buy all Bitcoin. So what is an advice that you would give to your younger self? Non-crypto.
I would say that you would be surprised how many more lunatics just like you are there. So speak up, and they're gonna come, and they're gonna start building together with you. When I started Ramp, I was a little bit afraid that the scale of the vision and what we want to achieve sounds a little bit too aspirational. And actually, what I later discovered is that there are so many people who crave a big mission and big purpose in their lives, and at the same time share our ambition and our vision, that it was overwhelmingly, it was just fantastic. It was just fantastic.
Love it. Yeah, embrace the weird, right? So
and the bold.
Awesome. So we wrap up the show. Thanks, Szymon, for joining us today. Tell us a little bit more of where can people find more about you online and about Ramp as well.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm on Twitter. It's SZYMONSYP. And you can also invite me on LinkedIn. It's the same, my name and surname from the podcast notes, copy, paste it, and you're going to find me.
There we go. Awesome. So that's all we have for today. Make sure you follow 11FS on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Yes, they make me do TikToks now to stay updated with all of the cool stuff that we're doing. If you enjoy our show, subscribe to the 11FS YouTube channel and all of the podcasts that we have everywhere. You can also catch up to many of our previous episodes. Have a great week, a great year, everybody. Stay rare, stay weird. LFG.